Hey everybody, I'm back with another Evercade review. This time it's the Sydney Hunter collection for the Evercade, and as always it comes with a nice full color manual, a little bit of history, including that Collector Vision now owns the rights to use the name Acclaim and Exidy, those old game publishers, not necessarily the game catalogs, but those names, and they actually use those names in some of these games. And also a nice little added bonus, always cool. You got a fold out kind of poster for Caverns of Death. That artwork, by the way, was apparently made by a guy who used to do Garbage Pail Kids. How cool is that? And a map. It looks like almost a hand-drawn, like with crayons and pencils, a color map for the Sacred Tribes game. Very, very cool. But you know what? Packaging is one thing, games are the other. Let's go ahead and pop this cartridge into my Evercade VS and see how these games hold up today. Let's go to the games. The Sydney Hunter collection is cartridge 30 of the standard red series. Amazon gives it a release date of August 11, 2023 here in the States. And at the time of my research, they actually had it in stock at the standard $19.99 price point. This cartridge contains 4 games from independent homebrew publisher Collector Vision, whose staff includes YouTuber Gamester81. Here's the games included on this cartridge, starting with my least favorite, working my way up to my most favorite. First, I have Sydney Hunter and the Shrines of Peril for the Intellivision. Originally, this was going to be a port of the ColecoVision game Smurf Rescue in Gargamel's Castle, but it had to be changed apparently due to legal reasons. It also appears to be the first Sydney Hunter game released as a cartridge. In this single-player game, use a D-pad to move, pressing down to duck. A performs a big jump, B performs a little jump, and jump you will need to do, as touching just about anything leads to death, even walking into the flat end of a hill, in which most games would simply have you stop moving, kills you. Each level has theme sections with a timer that is constantly running down for those sections, and it doesn't even reset if you die, unless you die from the timer running down. At the end is a diamond that will require 2 precise, and I mean precise, jumps to reach. I can't tell you how many times I died on my first jump, even though it looked like I landed fine initially. Get the diamond and do it again at increased difficulty with more enemies to avoid thrown in. I enjoyed the Smurf game on the 2600, and the graphics and sounds are really good for an Intellivision game, but I found this one to be too frustrating for my own personal tastes. Next we have Jester for the NES. Apparently this game will be released on cartridge for the NES at a later date, making this the first official release that I know of. This game has nothing to do with Sydney Hunter, but is actually based on the game King's Jester, which could be played in the 90s through the cable service of a Canadian company, Videoway. In this single-player maze game, you control the Jester with the D-pad. Each level has 9 rooms. When you collect a key, a green square will appear on the map showing you which treasure was unlocked. Collecting an unlocked treasure refills the first meter on the right side of the screen. If this meter runs out, you'll lose a life. The second meter is for the sword power-up. If you collect a sword, the roaming skulls, which are normally deadly, turn white, allowing you to eliminate them. If you clear all 4 before leaving the room, an object will appear that can be collected for bonus points, but it must be collected before you leave the room. If you leave a room without defeating all 4 skulls, any missing skulls will regenerate when you return. The final meter is for your torch. If it fully depletes, you will be unable to see the maze walls unless you collect another torch. Collect the 8 locked treasures and you can unlock the stairs to move to the next level that can have faster moving skulls. Clear level 4 and you beat the game. I got some enjoyment out of this one, but this game can be unforgiving when trying to move through openings, leading to getting stuck quite a bit. The game also could have used some in-game music, and is fairly easy as I was able to complete it in under 20 minutes once I got used to it. Sydney Hunter and the Sacred Tribe for the Master System is the next game. This appears to be the second Sydney Hunter game to be released in cartridge form, coming out first on the Intellivision. This single-player game reminds me a lot of Montezuma's Revenge. In it, you jump to avoid obstacles, occasionally finding temporary invincibility and diamonds. Collecting enough diamonds allows you to access new areas and eventually escape with your life. This game controls well enough, but you'll need to be precise at times, and the game can be pretty unforgiving every now and then. And there's also no continues. You also can't duck, and there will be times you'll need to jump in awkward setups when you can almost touch the diamond with the tip of your head standing underneath it. Having save states to use on the Evercade helped me avoid getting too frustrated with this game and being able to complete it after an hour or two. Overall, I liked it. Last, we have Sydney Hunter and the Caverns of Death for the Super Nintendo. This appears to be the third game in the series to be released and was kickstarted for the Super Nintendo. Apparently, this was originally a web-based game way back in 2012. This is the most accessible of the Sydney Hunter games, with an option to play in easy mode, where your hat serves as a health bar of sorts, falling off after your first hit. You also can press select at any time to see a game map. The game also allows for passwords and either has 10 levels to complete or 12 with added boss fights if you pick the extra mode in the options menu. You also have a boomerang you can throw, but you cannot duck. There's also a torch you can use to light up dark areas while you're holding it. This single-player game has you collecting treasures and objects to put on certain pedestals to access new areas. Later on, you'll have to navigate vines while avoiding the rising fire below, which is the least favorite part of the game for me personally. Complete a stage and get a password while moving on to the next. However, later stages may feel familiar as they often used recycled screens from previous levels in order to make the new stage. This was the most enjoyable title, and it felt like the most complete game of the collection, but it still didn't take long to complete, and I kinda wish it used the larger level design of Sacred Tribes, unlocking new areas rather than going on to a new level that just felt like a slightly larger variation of the previous one. Family-friendly wise, the game received a PEGI rating of 7 with some minor action elements, a slight reference to alcohol, and mention of human sacrifices. So what did I think of the Sydney Hunter collection for the Evercade? This reminded me of the Morphcat Games collection for all the wrong reasons. Both collections featured a low number of games by Evercade standards, and while both had some enjoyable, well-made games in those collections, they were also pretty short. In the case of Sydney Hunter, I was able to complete everything on the cartridge in about 4 to 5 hours, which for $20, I'm not sure I got my money's worth. Now, it is true that buying these games as homebrew cartridges would cost much more, but if I were buying a game off a digital service, 4 to 5 hours sounds about right for a single $5 to $10 game. Now, I could get more time out of them by avoiding the save states, but honestly, I think I would have got too frustrated in some cases, or the games may have felt a little tedious in others. I think it would have been better to have included another 4 to 6 titles from the CollectorVision library, or included these games as part of an Indie Heroes cartridge, but as it stands, I just can't recommend this unless you like what you see at the $20 price point. So where am I going to rank the Sydney Hunter collection? It's going right next to the Morphcat Games collection, which is currently at the bottom of my rankings. But I do like Sydney Hunter a smidgen more, so I'll give it the edge. So out of the 22 cartridges I've now ranked for the Evercade, the Sydney Hunter collection is starting out in the catacombs at the 21 position. The Sydney Hunter collection has some good games, but just not enough of them to compete with most other Evercade cartridges. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care, everybody.